I'm not sure why, but I can't hear you, Stefan.
Thank you, Jane. Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. Welcome to another live session with us at Dream Data. I'm on Gran Canaria today, so if the internet is a little bit flaky, that's my excuse. But today we're talking about a topic I think anybody who does, particularly software as a service software, should be caring a lot about, which is monitoring whether users gets onboarded properly to your product and make sure that they stick around to become happy customers. And to talk about this topic today, we have Jane Portman, who I don't know, would you call yourself an expert in in this topic or just very interested in the topic?
I can confirm I probably know more than many people because we've been doing this for 5 years at Userlist. And yeah, at company level, things are our specialty. And I know account level is also the specialty of Dream Data. So I guess we have a synergy going on here.
That's good. Jane, for those who do not know you, perhaps you can give like just like a 1 2 minute intro to your background, and then we can move into the topic afterwards.
Sure. So Userlist is an email automation, email marketing platform that targets specifically SaaS companies. We've been working on it for 5 years by now. Myself and my co-founder Benedict from Germany. He's the CTO, and I handle marketing and everything else. And I also do my best to educate with like good content, go around, spread the word, and there's so much content about email marketing automation, but the general topic is that it's pretty shallow, and folks don't usually go into the nitty-gritty details. And it's a pretty big can of worms because as soon as you try to implement something, then you face the problems, and the content out there is not answering those hard questions, like how exactly you do that. And account level anything is basically this like green field where nobody cares to talk about because it's just too complex. And we're talking about like AI in 2023 doing everything, but these simple problems have not been solved up to date, and that's pretty frustrating. I find that.
Yeah, so we have two companies here that actually specifically only care about account level stuff. So that hopefully we can utilize this knowledge to help the people who listen get a little bit smarter. And yeah, if you have any questions to Jane or to me, just type it into the chat and we'll bring it up as we go along. But where to start, Jane? I think like what let's try to start it explaining kind of what is the basics of account level user onboarding, and why is this a problem compared to just onboarding an individual to a product?
So if we have people listening to us who run SaaS companies, participate in SaaS companies, they don't need an explanation why user onboarding is important because that's what you do to address your activation. That's hugely important for any SaaS. The reason why we talk about user onboarding is because it's number one reason why people do need email platforms like ours is to send user onboarding email. So that's like primary use case. Then the interesting part is for B2B SaaS, individual success metrics, onboarding, retention, everything mostly makes sense on the account level. Because if we take the individual user journey, somebody may do a little thing and then just go completely dormant, which in the language of the individual user journey would mean that they have completely no success, and you should be like shaking them and saying like, please activate now. But in fact, there are three more people who are doing other things in the platform in their account, and they
Mm.
have also a little bits here and there that in the compound effect, it gives the effect of a successful account. So all those success metrics, activation metrics that you're measuring, I don't know, the number of projects, feature usage flags, anything, it makes sense to measure them on the account level and to store them on the account level. There are two problems to this. One is whether your analytics software or email marketing software allows to do that well, whether there is a concept of accounts at all. But even if there is, and you have been lucky to find a tool it does, then it's a question of how exactly you use these tools in order to produce a successful account level onboarding. That's how we arrive into this multi multi-aspect topic for today. It's user
Yeah.
onboarding for B2B SaaS, and it needs to be account oriented because otherwise it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I think particularly these days when the economy is going a little bit more conservative, or let's say even more dystopian, even for some. I think that particularly everybody who has products where like multiple users is on an account, you really wanna make sure that you have as many active happy users in this case as possible for whenever the renewal time is coming up. It's kind of like if you didn't prep for the exam, then the renewal time becomes very problematic.
Definitely so. And the dollars spent in this direction has fantastic ROI compared to dollars spent on like your ad budgets or something like that. Because first, you move, you look inwards into your most loyal people who have already signed up for your product. So that's already a great sign to focus on those people only. And then those automation efforts that you undertake, they're scalable and they are evergreen. You set it up once, even the minimum viable setup, and it does the automated customer success job for you. So the ROI on this is great.
That sounds pretty attractive. I guess there's moments where you want to have human interaction, and there's other moments where it's fine that it's like an automation. Um, but if we wanted to kind of understand when to do what and how does the life cycle of a user onboarding actually look like, where does a company then get started?
So I do have a few slides up somewhere.
Yeah,
I do
okay,
have
we
some
can share
slides
that.
there. Maybe we can pull up some charts from those slides. And I do have a graph for a typical account lifecycle. And
Yeah,
this
I
is an
put it up
example
now, Jean.
for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stefan. This example is for a typical B2B SaaS product that has a free trial model. So you can see how accounts move through a sequence of segments from trialing users to paying customers to canceled users, and you have that little subset of trial expiring, a little subset of advanced users. So these are your lifecycle segments. Once you draw up that lifecycle map, things kind of become more clear. The reason why you need to have that is because typically when somebody joins a corresponding segment, you will send them a corresponding campaign. So each segment also has its own conversion goal, so to speaking. So your conversion goal for trialing users is to make them activate. And you do that by sending an account onboarding campaign as soon as they join that segment. Once they join the paying customer segment, you send them a campaign for customer success and promoting advanced features. Once they join the segment of being advanced users, you would send them a campaign for sharing pro tips, things like that. So segments go, they're number one step in planning anything because then segments and campaigns go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Here you can see, imagine if you can send campaigns based on account triggers, that's what you would be sending. But now in
Are
the
we,
next slides,
are we talking emails here, or is it in-app messaging, or is like does the medium count for this?
you can use any medium that works best for your audience. Well, we're speaking about email. Userlist particularly handles email and in-app notifications, so you can mix and match those within campaigns. You can like the tools out there can do very different things these days. You can send them SMS, text messages, anything. There is a variety of choices. So this is an account lifecycle situation. But let's see what happens when users are starting to join, and you kind of can map the journey of individual users against this journey of an account. So user number A was the first to join, so their life cycle is kind of the same as the one of the account. But then the user B appears somewhere during the trial phase. They know a little bit less. But then there's user C, and they joined when the official trial for the account is over and the account is activated, but user C still deserves a little bit of onboarding to become successful, don't they? So you will need to think about them too.
I
And then
think
there is
this could
user,
look like a dream data journey as well.
and then there is another user D who also joined like the very advanced stage, and like what do we do with them either? How do you translate this into the language of automated campaigns? And the solution is that you will have that big master campaign for the account onboarding and account lifecycle, but you will also have mini campaigns for each user to onboard them individually. So your task is to plan automations in the way that the account onboarding campaign contains everything that relates to the account success, and those mini individual user onboarding campaigns, they're small, probably not enough, more humble, more small. They don't really go through a lot of things, but they give them the fundamentals and the baseline for being successful with the product, so that they don't feel
And
abandoned.
how do you make
Yep.
these individual user campaigns a success, or kind of how do you how can you kind of know that your messaging like resonates with the individual users? What are kind of the typical things people would be doing to ensure this?
There so few companies even do this at all, that basically going from 0 to 1 is better, like is already pretty awesome. And as product people, if you've been running your product for a while, you know what kind of problems people experience the most. So you would want to equip them with certain content, maybe if they're a type that want to do content. You can also equip them with an opportunity to get in touch with you. So you will have like an array of different things you can offer them, and you just distribute those things over the course of those onboarding campaigns.
So would that be like have
For
a few like persona segmentation, and then you run with the persona or something like that?
I'm glad you touched on the personas, because one of the recommendations when you craft those individual campaigns is to tailor them by role. So if you do certain roles in your data model, then you can have one kind of content for admins and another kind of content for content editors and another kind of content for anyone who just does billing and doesn't care about the rest. Maybe you should just like send one greeting email and let them go.
Yeah, that
Things
makes
like
sense.
that.
Yeah.
So tailoring those individual campaigns by role is a great idea. I'm glad that you brought that up.
And you had one more. What was the one more slide you just wanted to share
Yeah,
upon?
there's. I'd love to show through the show you around the anatomy of a typical onboarding campaign.
Yeah.
So the mechanics is that you use behavior data, but the journey is still linear. You use the behavior data to skip on irrelevant messages so that only relevant things get sent. We suggest that you've sent the first couple messages to everybody, and then you're trying to replicate the job of a customer success manager. You're looking at their success metric for feature A, like projects. If their projects are 0, then you will send them an email about projects and maybe invite them for a call or give them a hand about that.
Yeah.
If their projects are more than 0, then you're fine. You're just going onwards to the next message. and looking at feature B. If like the number of photos is 0, then you will send them a message about photos. And yeah, again, you can offer different things. You can, for example, at Userlist, we have that. We look at their number of users tracked. If the number of users remains 0, we offer them an engineering call with our technical team to set up the integration. If they have already started tracking and their user count is above 0, then we are moving forward and sending them inspiration for campaigns and other things. You can leverage different kinds of offerings and interventions, ranging from content, from articles and videos, towards ways to contact you, and actually maybe even services like offer a done for you solution or anything. You can orchestrate that. And then
How do
the
people,
trialing. Yeah.
how do people get started with this? Do they kind of just take a whiteboard and try to draw up kind of a flow chart of the process, or what's the right way?
We do have worksheets, and I actually have the final slide of this presentation with a link. It's userlist.com/worksheets, where you start with brainstorming what your product does and what are the typical steps towards the success of the user. And you're lucky if that's just 1 or 2 steps, or if you just need to do them to do one thing, then you can really push and focus on that one thing. If it's a multi-step process, then you will have multiple check-ins and multiple steps inside your campaign. Yeah, just your own perception of what you would do if you were a customer success person, checking in on their account health, and what could be helpful for them at that particular stage. And the best way to learn is to do some onboarding manually, to do customer interviews and all that customer development that we all love to do.
Who typically does this in an organization? Is it the CS team, or is it the marketing team, or what's your experience?
The biggest problem is that the ownership really varies. Like, for example, a funny fact is that for a couple years we thought that our primary target audience for doing this is the product manager, because they would care about the account success. But actually, typically it's the marketing team that handles both marketing email campaigns and customer email campaigns, because they are the people who can write emails. So they kind of own the project, and then they work together hand in hand with the product teams to make sure that it all makes sense. Also, customer success team also very much has a say to this. So sometimes it's a customer success team that sort of leads the project, because they know exactly where people struggle and they know exactly what kind of help they can offer. But it's a cross-functional situation indeed.
Yeah. I guess that's also what can make it a little bit complex sometimes, is that CS has the day-to-day stuff, marketing maybe have the writing abilities, and then the product people would know how to to do the engineering part of automating these things.
The biggest problem is that in order for this to happen, you need the live data integration between your backend and the software. So only engineering team can make it happen. And then once you have that data in, you also need to know how to set up campaigns properly. Like, a typical marketer knows what they want to say and when, but they can do that in plain English. But now, how do they make these campaigns work? What is the mechanics? And to be honest, we've discovered that it's really not the domain of anybody in the world. Basically, everybody struggles with it. Developers are great at understanding the mechanics, but they're not great at knowing what to say. Marketers know what to say, but struggle to understand like how people move through segments and how it works. So it's a pretty challenging industry. Basically, there are certified automation professionals, but there is like a handful across the world. And
Yeah,
we only learned that like a couple years ago, because before that we assumed that people would be easily successful with the software.
yeah. I can't stop thinking about what would be the kind of problematic go-to-market things here, that you have kind of three people involved that or like three different personas involved that all needs to kind of agree on buying it. So where do you start, and who needs to sign off on it, and so forth.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Usually, the teams do figure it out when there's certain drive for. It's usually when they need to revamp their user onboarding. It's like the typical jobs to be done situation when they are like really energized to solve this, and they do figure it out, but it's not without pain. Like definitely a lot of education going on, and our customer success has a lot of hand holding and things like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Mm, have have you had any kind of good cases where kind of you've seen people adopting this kind of account level thinking around their onboarding where it's made a difference? Or like some anecdotes where it made
We
a positive.
really like the ROI of email in general is very hard to track because in the ideal world, the customer has their own motivation and it's much, much stronger than any kind of interventions you can offer. So we're not doing a good job at like tracking successful case studies there. I wish we could boast something like, oh, they added an email and it started converting like 2x from
Yeah,
trial to paid. No,
yeah.
don't have anything like that to boast, unfortunately. And same with email experts. They can't really promise results because you never know. Like, also depends on the current cohort of users and many
Yeah,
other things.
yeah. Is there any kind of volumes here that would define who should care about it and not care about it? Like, if you only have like a couple of new accounts per month, perhaps it's not worth obsessing about. Whereas if you're like a high volume SaaS business, then I can see that this really needs to work well.
A good framework to adopt in terms of thinking about this is to realize that the cost of software it's really small compared to the cost to the cost of human effort that's required to think it through, to plan it, to set it up. That's like the majority upfront effort. So this one-time investment, if you're ready to do that, then you can experience relief in your current like customer success situation pretty soon. And depending like how painful that is, if it's no problem checking, if you're having like 10 accounts every month, it's no problem for your customer success to do these check-ins manually. But if you're a small founder and you have like only 3 people on the team, even checking in on 10 accounts can be pretty big mental burden. And if email
Yeah, I
can
agree.
take the job up for you, you will experience the benefits pretty soon. However, the bigger volume of users, the more the scale. Therefore, the most powerful use cases usually lie in the like B2C or high volume B2B, where you have really high numbers and
Yeah,
any improvement will bring solid ROI because it's the same automation. It just works for 20,000 people instead of 200 people.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's it, it's a very clear math here.
But I guess it is also like if the CS team says or like experience that it's the same questions that they are always being asked by the same people at the same point in time, then I guess would should raise the flag for this is probably worth automating or standardizing questions
Yeah.
to what we reply in this situation. So like if there's some core functionality for a certain persona, then like wrap it into some messaging that you can push automatically rather than doing like a one-on-one meeting every time you need to do this explanation.
Yeah, definitely. And the biggest principle here is to make it to tailor it to different personality types, let's say. It should be kind of choose your own adventure. There will be always users who read the docs from first to last page. There will be users who never read the docs. There will be users who prefer to stumble their way through and to contact support all the time. There will be users who love getting on calls, so suggesting those calls is important. There will be users that hate getting on calls, and then the
Yeah,
videos
yeah,
might come in handy.
yeah.
So if you have certain product wisdom, you just need to present in different formats so that different, not like education styles, people can find a format that fits them. Also, same for channels. Like some people will read the pop-up that you have in your in-app notification. Some of them will
Otherwise,
like completely ignore it. Yeah, probably
yeah,
ignore it, but still worth including it. Yeah.
really nice. So just before we kind of start wrapping up, is there any kind of advice on this topic you think people should like? What are the questions that they should take back home and talk about in their teams?
Just thinking about accounts is good enough. Because if you try to think about your problems on the account level, then you're gonna immediately discover other things you need to worry about. For example, segmentation is another interesting thing because you can definitely segment accounts based on their success. But let's say if we talk about email marketing, there is also the stage of marketing leads. And marketing leads only exist at the level of individual user because we don't have that information about the customer yet. So this it's a pretty big dilemma where to apply like segmentation for individual users and where to apply segmentation for companies because both are useful, just different use cases. If you head over blog, you'll find some, we call them top guides, some really really in-depth articles about
Yeah,
these kind of problems in case
maybe
you're really
where
into like
where
diving in.
where do people find the blog, Jane, just to make sure that
Userlist.com/blog.
okay.
We just redesigned it so you can easily navigate. We have like fancy
Yeah,
table of contents and things like that. So
and then you mentioned some kind of in the slide deck. You said you had like one place people could go to get started.
there is the worksheets. Let me scroll to that page. I
Oh
don't
yeah, that
think I
was
can do
that
this.
was the one. Let me just
It's the last slide. It's the last slide.
put that deck online here again. Maybe that. Well, let's talk through that one as the last thing.
You mean that's not, I have many more recommendations, but I was going to scroll to slide number 37, which will take 20 more slides. I don't think we can. Yeah, there's some implementation advice here.
Let me just was it slide 30? I'll just try and see if I can get it
Yeah,
there.
another can of worms is many to many relationships between accounts and users when one user can be part of multiple accounts. It's also pretty interesting. Yeah, segmenting companies, not users.
Sounds like you've seen all kinds of challenges with this.
Yeah, and we barely scratched the surface, let's admit that, but I'm glad we were able to bring this up.
Yeah, cool. And if people wanna like get your advice on stuff related to this, what do they do?
We do offer strategy calls if you want.
Yeah.
You can find links in the majority of those blog posts, so it shouldn't be a problem, or just email support. If you want to talk over any of these problems, welcome to schedule a call with me personally, and no strings attached. We can discuss your situation as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and the listeners, Jane.
My
And
pleasure.
yeah, I
Thank you.
do hope people go check out your website as well and help you go to market in that sense.
Thank you, Stefan.